Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another webinar by Intellectsoft. Today's topic is digital transformation in hospitality, how and why modern hotel and casino chains adopt emerging technologies. The webinar will be presented by Intellectsoft innovation leaders who are in charge of the hospitality projects at the company. Andriy Kashcheyev, Intellectsoft CTO and Chief Solution Architect, Tim Kozak, Head of Technology at Intellectsoft Blockchain Lab, and me, Iurii Odnorogov. I'm representing Intellectsoft Business Development Team, and I have some 7 years of digital transformation consulting for various industries experience. Before we start, please note that you can leave your questions in the conference chat, and we will answer them during the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Let me start with a short company introduction. Intellectsoft was founded in 2007 and since has grown into a full-fledged digital transformation boutique focused on consulting, software development, and emerging technology solutions. Our mission is to provide both enterprises and startups with technological capabilities that would help them overcome the challenges of digital transformation. Our headquarters is located in Palo Alto, California. Development centers are in Eastern Europe, and we also have an onshore sales and consulting presence all over the Western Europe and the United States. Over 12 years, Intellectsoft has built a strong customer portfolio that includes the world's top brands, both Fortune 500 enterprises and startups that are on their way becoming unicorns. Our portfolio includes a number of hotel and casino chains for which we've completed numerous projects. They would range from simple mobile development to carrying out a complex IT infrastructure reorganization and integration of services based on an emerging technology stack. For example, stack of one of our projects for hospitality client combined integration of the Internet of Things, machine learning, and blockchain technologies. Over the years, Intellectsoft was recognized and awarded for its technology excellence and ability to deliver complex solutions even to the most demanding of customers in verticals like healthcare, hospitality, financial services, construction, and other. Our service portfolio includes 5 areas: cognitive computing, commonly known as artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, blockchain, augmented and virtual reality, and customer experience transformation. Intellectsoft has built 5 labs, each focusing on one service area. In these labs, we accumulate technical and business expertise from over 500 projects carried out by our company. This allows us to shorten the innovation cycle for each new customer. The labs branch from the concept of an enterprise core, an infrastructure that holds together a set of services and systems forming the heart of every enterprise. For example, property management systems, CRM, ERPs, and others. This means that Intellectsoft not only can integrate emerging technologies with such systems, but it is also in altering the enterprise core itself, for example, turning it to a set of microservices or shifting it to a hybrid cloud infrastructure. The ability to deliver end-to-end solutions and expertise in the latest techs makes us a one-stop shop for our partners. This means that many of them do not turn to other partners in digital transformation journeys. But enough about the company. Let's get back to the topic of our webinar. Today we will talk about how hotels, casinos, and their ecosystem of suppliers are adopting new technologies to transform the customers' experiences. We will not be touching PMS or other hospitality IT systems. Instead, we will move the spotlight on those new technology solutions that are integrated with the legacy layer to bring maximum business value. In the following slides, my colleagues will share their experience in building and integrating complex solutions for hospitality clients and explore real-life use cases of emerging technology solutions in those industries. These slides shows a reference roadmap for a digital transformation process with a sample adoption time on the top. This is a rough idea of what a set of services can include. In reality, everything is customizable, and the set of use cases will depend on the business need of each particular hospitality business. But the general point is that the digital transformation of the hospitality industry is aimed at guests, and both recurring and potential, streamlining their customer journeys and providing hospitality business with forecasts for data-driven decisions. Also, the adoption of various use cases does require some level of digital maturity and both hardware and software ecosystem to be in place. For example, to create a hyper-personalized experience for each recurring guest, there should be a smart system of sensors, actuators, cloud platform, and machine learning algorithms that will remember and reproduce the room's mood, as well as suggest the services that each guest had favored during their previous stay. And the time for the adoption of such systems has already come. Leading hotel chains like Marriott and Intercontinental Hotel Group already have parts of these systems and predictive services in place. So these technologies are bound to become common in hotels, like the telephone and TV did before them. And this is not just our assumption. Aside from our expertise in working with hotel and casino chains, we studied numerous third-party researches and surveys. They showed that guests already expecting even higher level of digitalization, personalization, and responsiveness of hotel amenities than they have at their homes. This is what's happening right now in the hotel industry. You will get the list of the surveys and research papers we used with your individual copy of this presentation. But enough about generalities. Let's buckle down on real-life implementation scenarios and the use cases of digital transformation in hospitality. Without further ado, please welcome Intellectsoft CTO Andriy Kashcheyev.
Thank you, Iurii, and let me introduce myself once again. My name is Andriy Kashcheyev. I'm a CTO and Chief Solution Architect at Intellectsoft. I've been in software industry for at least 15 years and working in a product company and a professional services company. And I think that's enough for me. For myself, let's move on with the real interesting cases. So the smart room concept is obviously quite familiar for you guys. You have some incarnation probably at home from different vendors. What is the real distinction between the smart room concept for the hotels is that we have to build everything on the embedded IoT side and also on the cloud side by ourselves. In most of the cases, the solution from the existing vendors are either very specific for the home household industry and not really tuned to being deployed as a fleet to multiple facilities. So we have to build the backbone not only for the IT devices but also for the cloud and for the backend services. And the picture you see on your screens is actually the real project we are doing with the client. And all those subsystems are actually built by our company. So let me go into the nutshell of what the system actually consists of. So we have the tablet, which is a control for the system. This is where you actually control and manage all the devices, the IoT devices, and they can be lights, they can be different actuators like moving the shades. They can be also the telemetry information being received from the sensors themselves. Like a very good example is CO and CO2, which is one sensor integrated with the fire alarm. But guests might probably be interested to see how healthy the environment is at the moment. And obviously, we have the smart hub, which is being hidden in the room, and this is direct connection between the tablet and to all the devices themselves. and the smart hub is connected to the backbone, to the backend services. So the backend is the scalable architecture, because we have to support a lot of rooms and in many facilities, and addition of the new hotel facility. Another distinction from the household is how many different roles or how many different domains are impacted and being used by the system. It's not only the guests who are obviously the primary users, but also the housekeeping, the tools and infrastructure for efficient maintenance workflow. There is a property management to have the overview of what is happening in the room from the power consumption point of view, from all and the sensors, health, and all other data. The front desk services for the fast and responsive request management and technical maintenance. Once again, it's related to how we proactively react to some of the malfunctions or some of the conditions which are not properly met by the system. So if you imagine the journey, a guest stay journey at the hotel, the very first step is getting into the hotel premises and actually checking in. And this process is sometimes quite frustrating, may take 10 to 20 minutes due to some of the constraints, like sometimes it's a queue, sometimes it's actually the language barrier, could be late or too early arrivals, room availability, and self-managed check-in by its technical nature is not difficult, because the only difficulty is probably integrating with some of the HMS systems and other subsystems. The most difficult part is the physical, managed physical access to the room, and this is associated with security and safety concerns. And to do this, we have to actually have the smart room becoming kind of a core guardian for this solution. It's not only the mobile phone with integration with the smart lock which makes the decision, it's the smart room together with the backend services who provide what is known in the industry as authorization and authentication procedure. Authentication, this is a check whether the guest have a proper credentials and prove what he claims to be. Obviously the mobile has to talk to the smart locks, a smart lock has to talk to the smart hub, but could be the additional checks, like if the camera is installed, the video camera is installed on the door, it may play multiple roles, but in this case, it's actually the facial recognition, which is also checked. And then when you are in the room, the authorization starts to play additional role here, because this is a kind of permission, role-based permission system, which identifies what is allowed and what is not allowed to do in the room or in the services, or on the services in the room. And additionally, all other, let's say, departments in the hotel, they also use this system, because the same entrance authentication, the same authorization would be applied if the housekeeping staff enters the room. They would have their own permissions. If the technicians enter the room to replace something or to check something, they would have, once again, a different authorization rules. So going along our guest staying in journey in the hotel, we come to actually personalized entertainment concept. This is when you, instead of using the paper or instead of using the screen for the guides, which is, in my opinion, quite horrible, and TV is sometimes not even switched on. Like I myself personally, I just switch it in the home page and have the music in the background and use all the media on my phone, on laptop. Here we are trying to break it and to disrupt it with the personalized tablet dashboard. For the smart room concept, we have already this tablet, because we use it for the control of all the IoT devices in the room. And additional functionality, which is more related to their personal user experience, is also added to the same application. And I forgot to mention previously that this tablet application is actually Technically, it's Android kiosk mode based, and you can't do anything except just use this one single application on it. So from personalized entertainment concept, we have the room information guide. Obviously, it's quite visible, visual, and searchable. You can discover all the hotel services which can be updated actually in more or less real time from the backend. We have an integration with video and music cloud platforms like Netflix and Spotify, and this is when you bring your own personal, let's say, feeling and entertainment into the room. We can get rid of the landline, like the land phone artifact, and ordering and booking services from the tablet becomes quite easy. So on the back end, this is still the same backbone which is used for the smart room. All the dashboards to observe in real time the information about what is being requested and ordered by the guest is available. Some of those requests may actually trigger either the API calls, or some rules can be executed and human staff can be notified. The infrastructure, since the infrastructure is actually built as microservices architecture platform, is quite ready to scale and to support either new features or new properties. And what I mentioned before, the updates and the new services, even the new screens, they actually updated from the backend, and all the fleet is automatically updated. There is an obvious concern about personal account credentials. Like if you enter your account in Netflix on Spotify, you want to be sure that that information is not stored on the device and not used by anyone else. So it's a concept of the trust, education, and some technical paradigms like anonymization, cryptography, data expiration removal, which is obviously quite doable. And your final step in the hotel stay journey is actually the checkout. And in our opinion, that's quite an important step. And the importance is coming from the fact that this is probably the best opportunity to get the feedback about you as a guest staying in the hotel, and then use this feedback for either improvement of the services, understanding what went right, what went wrong, what were the concerns, or maybe on the opposite, you were extremely happy to stay and you liked everything. If you imagine the flow, how the smart room would play this workflow, it might look like this. So the smart room notifies about the checkout in advance. It's quite a simple rule. It might notify the day before or in the morning that you are checking out, and the checkout time is 12 p.m. The smart room may monitor like the flights or possible schedule changes. The smart room may order the transportation to their airport or train station. Since all the accounting information is already available, it may provide you the bill, and if you confirm, it will charge you automatically. Smart room then deletes all the sensitive guest data which was entered or used, or it can anonymize it and encrypt, and that data may be reused for your future stays. The last but not least is rating, and feedback is being asked. This is what I already mentioned, quite an importance to understand what to improve. And the final stages in this workflow would be quite automatic. This is when the room is locked, AC is put into standby, all the devices which consume the power would be in dormant state, and notification would be sent to the cleaning staff that the room is available for the housekeeping. So let's go to our next phase of the roadmap, which is about artificial intelligence and machine learning. The smart mood. You have probably noticed that a lot of concepts we are building on top of the smart room, and the smart room plays a role of a platform, and we actually see a lot of value in adding the new services and building new services on top of it. And Smart Mood is a perfect example of this approach. It's a fuse between IoT domain and AI/ML domain, due to the fact that this mood is effectively kind of either pre-configured or learned on the fly sequences of events for the end user, for the guest to experience during his stay. Like good morning mood can be a sequence of not only just alarm clock, but the blinds could be open in advance. If there is a possibility to brew a tea or coffee or order it to the room, it can be also accomplished. The TV set can be turned on with a low volume on the news channel and stuff like this. So these rules can be pre-configured in kind of AFTT fashion when there is a strict order and strict sequence, or it could be a probabilistic inference based on neural network models, which are taught on behaviors of real guests. Neural network-based models are considerably more powerful and more intelligent in terms of how to adjust to the behaviors and learning the new concepts, which is virtually impossible to program with a rule-based approach. But it depends heavily on the backend data collection and backend processing infrastructure. The voice assistant is also a mixture between the IoT and AI/ML. It's kind of a fusion of these two domains. We once again extrapolate even further the smart room concept. And if you remember, the tablet in the smart room was the primary device to control the environment. Here we are replacing it with the voice assistant device. And it becomes even more viable due to the smart modes, which can be treated as compound commands, and it's much easier to activate them verbally instead of doing it on the tablet. What is different from the voice assistant and unique about voice assistant is a concierge mode with free text conversation. And this concept is quite cumbersome if done on the tablet in chat alternative. But the natural language recognition is still notoriously difficult, and this requires either deep knowledge in AI/ML or utilizing the AI services from the cloud providers. And actually, we believe that for the best adoption of this concept as a voice assistant, the architectural blueprint would be actually to leverage either AWS or Google Cloud provider services. You have already noticed that a lot of these services, they actually all depend on the data, and some of those are producing, some of those are consuming. Like IoT Smart Hub is actually producing a lot of data, but also has to consume the data. And the data warehouse concept is what actually epitomizes as a single data repository for all enterprise data, for the data governance, data access, even data provenance. We, as a company in our professional services experience, have observed that many companies are going through this transformation of with enterprise architecture, moving away from dedicated databases, silos of data, identifying that there is data duplication, building the system, integrating multiple data sources, looking at the data model and understanding what is actually the taxonomy of the data, exposing the visibility of the data, and eventually this would bring the generation of the new services, new ideas, new offerings. Some organizations have realized this potential quite early, and usually those are quite technically savvy organizations. And some organizations have come to this concept on the big data hype. Sometimes they failed and they changed the approach. They looked at it from the business perspective, with the business value as a primary focus. and they moved forward. And eventually we see that data warehouse either is as an incarnation of big data lake or sometimes data swarm. It becomes the center of all the data in the enterprises as they grow. So it's a bit of cliche to say, but the data is the fuel for the enterprises. And hospitality entertainment industry is no exception. Our company is actually working on the smart home concept together with a big data warehouse, because all the telemetry, all the data which coming from smart hubs is going into the ingestion layer of the big data system. We are moving further down the roadmap, and the extended reality, AR and VR, is our next topic. So extended reality is one of those industries which is just breaking the infancy, both in technology and use cases, beyond the gaming, of course, and some of the video industry domains. There is an interest in hospitality, and we see it from the market campaigns, hotel navigation, and gamification of the guest stay, especially the concept for the guest kits to discover in the Pokemon Go style AR game hotel premises, and moving into the vicinity of the hotel, and even expanding it to the rest of the chain, hotel chain locations. The virtual hotel tour concept might start from the online properties advertising or marketing campaigns. It shouldn't be necessarily be VR gear. It could be just a 3D, but the quality, high quality rendering and realistic lighting, shadows and textures are quite important. So the more real the picture looks like, the more, let's say, the higher chances for client acquisition would be. Room floor and view selection is another concept which can be utilized here. Sometimes guests are not satisfied with what they get when they check in, and if they could, let's say, pre-book in advance a room, and it might even cost more, but a lot of people would actually agree to this, and it can be quite easily achieved with virtual hotel concept. Facilities like conference rooms for meetings or exhibits is another example. People like to explore it first before actually coming to the hotel physically and checking it out. And we actually look at the virtual hotel as a platform, the same way as we see the smart room and data warehouse are platforms for building new value-added services and expanding the enterprise. And now I'm giving the words to my colleague Tim Kozak for the blockchain distributed ledger technology part.
Thanks, Andriy. Hi, everyone. My name is Tim Kozak, and I have more than 10 years of experience in tech. And right now I'm working as a head of technology at Intellectsoft Blockchain Lab. Today, I'll talk you through the hospitality case where the blockchain technology was used. So we can see on this slide that the hotel ecosystem is pretty diverse and decentralized. And there is a lot more if we add intermediaries into the picture, like online, offline travel agencies, tour operators, etc. But today we won't cover any functionality that can remove the intermediaries, as a lot of blockchain projects claim to do. But as a tech guys, we know that it is possible from technology standpoint, and it may happen, but not in the near future, because it requires not only the technology part, but also the whole infrastructure. However, we'll talk more about implementations that can be valuable right away. So the examples we show you today are based on the real projects, and we implemented them for our customers, and they are up and running. So this case will be focused more on hotel ecosystem and loyalty. And the client we worked with on this case owns not just a single property, but the whole network of hotels and additional infrastructure like shops, restaurants, casinos, services like spa, and various events happening all around it. And if we think of it, the loyalty play a crucial role in the ecosystem because despite of intermediaries from the moment your client arrives to the facility, you have direct contact and the opportunity to connect to him and convert him to returning customer. So the loyalty is the one of the key mechanics that can do it, but it's very hard when your properties or locations are disconnected. And if we take into account the casino loyalty and the merchants, connecting all of these entities from a technical, accounting, and a legal perspective can be very hard. And this is the place where the blockchain can really help because its nature is decentralized and at the same moment it is secure. So in this case, blockchain solves three main problems. So first one, it creates a common identity for the whole ecosystem. And it is worth to mention that we do not store any private data on the blockchain because of the immutability and because of the high regulations. But what we do store is the identity that connects hashed references to other identities in the network. The second problem it solves is it introduces shared loyalty platform and a single balance for each customer, regardless of the location or activity. So now what you can do is you can spend your loyalty points that you got from the casino, and then spend them in another location or another property. Or what you can do as organization, you can organize cross-location loyalty campaigns. And the third thing it solves, it's a secured storage for all transactions with cryptographic proofs that can be used for automatic reconciliation for merchants or reporting about the casino loyalty points earned there. But let's move more to the technical details. So the first, of course, the system is not fully decentralized, and we have very pragmatic approach when it comes to technology. And you wouldn't integrate the blockchain only because of the hype or trends. We implement only if there is a practical feasibility. So there is a lot centralization still. We still have APIs and integrations for the clients like ePOS machines, membership system, mobile apps, administration panels. We still have a service layer that utilizes the blockchain functionality and merges everything together. So what it does is it builds and deploys smart contracts onto the blockchain according to the centralized rule engine. And the third thing is infrastructure. It's not a rocket science, and right now the blockchain infrastructure is not so scary as it was before. So everything is on the cloud, and everything is based on traditional technologies like Kubernetes and deployed to corresponding facilities that corresponds to the facility's location. And this type of deployment gives us a lot of flexibility. So if if it is required by the regulations, the on-premise installation is required, we can deploy it. Or if it is required to move to another cloud provider, it can be easily done. So as you can see, blockchain is only part of the solution, but the impact it brings are pretty straightforward. So common identity, shared loyalty system, and secure transaction storage. And also, it's not the final state of it, because we are constantly working on the future versions, and a lot of features are now in progress from both the technical and legal perspective. So more to come. That's it from me, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Tim, for the insights and sharing your experience. So to sum up, there's a lot of uncertainty around emerging technologies and their adoption. So it should be, considering a variety of technologies, use cases, and solutions out there. And Intellectsoft has a strong domain expertise for advising the right solution to solve particular business challenges and avoid pitfalls while delivering and deploying these solutions. And before we will end the webinar itself, we have several questions from the audience to answer. And by the way, please feel free to add new questions through the chat as well. Okay, and let's jump to the first question. And the first question is, how long does it take to engineer a smart room full of sensors? So I believe Andrew could answer that question.
Thank you, Iurii. Well, I wish there was an easy answer. So the first would be, it depends, of course. In a more elaborated way, it is actually the subject to requirements, and the requirements can be how many different IoT devices would be integrated with the hub. What would be the platform for the hub, whether it should be designed from scratch, or whether the hardware would be specific and proprietary. Like in our case, we actually built it onto Raspberry Pi. For us, that wasn't a big choice decision. The fleet management is another concept which should be considered, because this is not a trivial process to manage a lot of devices, and obviously those devices are connected through the hubs, and how the hub is updated and how it updates the device is also an interesting technical challenge. Another requirement would be whether the cloud services are already in place, or we have to design them and implement them. Offline, online operation modes, they are quite tricky to do properly, and obviously there is a controller, which is mobile application, and it requires all the standard cycle for the design, UI, UX, and an implementation. So I would say that to give you a reference, our project, which we are involved, the first production release came after approximately 1 year development, and each new feature is probably added every 1 or 2 months.
Okay, I believe that there is an answer for the question. So the next question will be, what blockchain technology did you use to implement the loyalty program, and why? I believe this is a question for Team Kozak.
Thanks, Iurii, and thanks for this question. So as you know, we have like a full blockchain lab at Intellectsoft, and it is connected to the project when DLT experience is required. And yeah, we basically have a lot of experience with different frameworks and blockchains, so we have a huge list to choose from. And in this project, we looked at a number of properties like performance, cost of ownership, Turing completeness, and the community size is important. But the most important ones was maintainability and a room for customization, because we would try to look at the products that can survive in production environment. So we chosen the Hyperledger Fabric for this project because it was aligned with all of the requirements, and it is the most mature for this kind of cases.
Okay, thank you, Tim. And I believe we have another one. So the third question is, what is the technology behind the big data in your cases? I believe that Andrew can handle that question.
Yeah, thank you. It also comes into my domain. So the system which we showed you before, it's actually built on Apache Hortonworks, but we are trying to be flexible and agile in terms of technology choices. The only preference is that we would like to go with open source solutions, but obviously sometimes the client demands that it should be a data warehouse from some of the vendors, which is fine for us. The amount of data actually plays quite an important role, and if there is a lot of heavy processing expected, then Hadoop platform is a good choice. But Hadoop could be also heavy and difficult to manage. Then we would go with, let's say, more agile and streamlined solution on the lighter components. And from technology point of view, like the Apache NiFi, Apache Kafka, and Stream and batch processing on Apache Spark is quite a good platform. We've been using it in other industries, not only in the hospitality. So the data volume capabilities are very good.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. So I believe we have several more questions, but we will answer them in a personal manner through the emails. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your questions, and I believe this is time for the wrap up. If you still have something to ask or simply want to communicate your opinion, please do not hesitate to contact me directly using the contact information on the slide. Of course, we'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Thank you for your time, and stay tuned for new activities from Intellectsoft. Goodbye.